another episode of To the Major Leagues. And I think this one is near and dear to my heart because I kind of identify as being a Toronto Blue Jay. You were a Toronto Blue Jay for a long time. Obviously, a much better career than I had. Three-time All-Star.
Just longer.
Three-time All-Star, three-time Gold Glove Award winner. A guy that, when I got drafted by the Blue Jays was a guy that, I kind of idolized, the things you were able to do for the city of Toronto, for the organization. So I just want to let you know it's a huge honor. And I know we got a chance to kind of meet each other, when I was playing there and you were around, and you were just a big part of, my development. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Pleasure to be here.
Heck yeah. I mean, so, and I got to I got to watch you, even though I grew up in Florida, you were on those Toronto teams. Cause when you first got to the big leagues, it was Cito Gaston was the manager.
So when I first got there, no, that was after Cito. So Cito came on, I think, in 2009.
Okay.
My first full season was 2002.
2002, but you made your debut when you were 20 years old.
20
in 99.
In 99.
99.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you played for 12 years in
12 years, and basically.
In Toronto.
Up and down for 99, 2000. You know how that.
Yeah,
that
I'm going to get into that, but I want to go back to just even the very beginning because. What we're trying to do here is kind of just share your journey to the major leagues and how everyone's passed a little bit differently. You grew up born in Louisiana, but grew up here in Arlington.
Yeah, this was home, Arlington.
Okay,
born in Shreveport, but raised in.
Where'd you go to high school here in Arlington?
Arlington Bowie.
Okay,
yeah.
So when did you? Who kind of introduced you to baseball? How'd you get started playing baseball?
It's funny. My dad was actually telling me a story yesterday. Just first experience in baseball is YMCA and having the last name of Wells. I was the last kid that was going to be hitting and coming up. And I said they threw me the first pitch and I hit the ball to the fence and everybody just stopped you could hear a pin drop. I was like, I don't remember this moment, but cool. But from that point on, it was just playing baseball. It was just, I had fun doing it. And football, baseball, basketball, I played them all up until high school. And then,
And your dad was a CFL player?
Was a CFL player, was in camp with the Chiefs. I like to say I ruined his football career being born. So that is what it is.
This is the second time we've heard that today about, a father's career maybe ending a little bit shorter because they had kids.
Yeah, it was a different time. And he was going on a different path, trying to play receiver and doing those things in a game that's just violent. But he was also a really good sports artist. So he had something else to turn to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of an interesting thing because, I mean, obviously we were in Major League clubhouses a lot of our life. We all know your dad. He came in with his unbelievable artwork. How much of that, him being able to go in the Major League clubhouses when you were a kid, had an impact on, kind of your development, being able to kind of see firsthand what a Major League clubhouse looked like? It
was a big one for me because when I was 10, 11 years old, I'm going into big league clubhouses.
That's awesome.
That was back when the Oakland A's were the Oakland A's, and it was Dave Stewart, Ricky Henderson, and Mark McGuire, and Jose Canseco, and all those guys, Dave Parker. I'm just in the clubhouse with them, and it wasn't a big deal for me just because I had gotten used to it. Such a big deal that Dave Stewart ended up coming to one of my games as a 10, 11-year-old while they were in town. And he ended up being our GM at one point with the Blue Jays. So it was just full circle moments that just you don't take for granted. But when you look back at them, it's like, oh, man, that doesn't happen very often.
So when you were, you grew up playing baseball, you obviously had that moment your dad kind of reminded you of that. You were probably, gifted. You had it, but was there a time when you were 10, 11, 12 years old, you were going to these Major League clubhouses, you said, hey, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player?
Not then. Because when I was 11, 12 years, I think I was 11, I wasn't even the fifth best player on my team. I was good, but I wasn't the best player. And at the time, as you look back and you talk about those moments and you see, okay, I continue to develop from that time all the way through, well, I wouldn't say all the way through my career because it definitely hit a roadblock, but I continue to grow. So for me, it wasn't the dream of doing it wasn't unrealistic, even though when I met my wife, when I met her in high school, my sophomore year, I told her, and if I don't get drafted in the top 10 picks, I'm not signing. And she laughed in my face, and rightfully so. I didn't know what the heck I was talking about being a 15-year-old sophomore, but that was my dream.
That's awesome. So I was going to ask you that because I think all of us in some aspect, like, you know, at some point in our youth, like when I was 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to play for the Atlanta Braves, right? Like that was my team growing up. Grew up in Florida. They were always on TV. Chipper Jones was my guy. Like, and I wanted to be an Atlanta Brave. And for a long time, it's just kind of like, it's just something you want to do. But the older you get, and I guess maybe the closer it comes to like, you're now this age, like you're either heading in this direction or you're not. But the athletes that are doing it, they don't seem like human beings, right? Like they seem like superhuman. And I knew like man, like those guys are playing a different game. They're living a different life, and it just doesn't seem very realistic. Even though I knew like I was a good player as an amateur, like I knew I was a good player in high school, I was like, man, those guys are like it. So
Right.
It wasn't until honestly I was and I'm going to get to my question here in a second, but I remember being a backup in a big league spring training game. And I was still like, I wasn't even sure. I was like, man, I have no business being here. I'm just going to be a minor leaguer for a few years and I'll probably go somewhere else. And I remember standing on the mound and Scott Rowland is in the box. And I was like, what am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And I threw him a fastball right down the middle and he fouled it off. And I was like, wait a minute. Like that's supposed to be in the seats. And the big leaguer, quote unquote, became human at that point.
Right.
For me, it became like, it was like, all right, I might be able to do this. So I say all that. You as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid going into these big league clubhouses and seeing these, you know, larger than life figures, did they become
A little bit more normal.
Did the dream become more real?
Yeah.
It was like, you know what? Like these guys put their pants on the same way
Yeah.
my dad does. You know, where it was like, it didn't become like this giant mountain that seemed impossible to climb. It was like, they're just really good at what they do, but they're still human beings.
And I think something like being that age, it probably wasn't something I was cognizant of, but it was like, oh yeah, I've been in there. I've seen what those guys are like, and they're just like us. They're just like me, just at an older age, doing it at a higher level, and get to be on TV doing it, playing in a really bad ballpark that was the old Arlington Stadium, but it wasn't outside of the norm for me, which I got a chance to be open to, which most people don't at that age.
For me, that was my upbringing. I grew up in Los Angeles. I listened to Vince Scully growing up, and I'll never forget times when he would talk about kids on maybe other teams or men on other teams that kind of grew up in the area of LA. And he talked about, oh, this player played at Hart High School or Valencia or El Camino, like local high schools to where I went. And I'm like, I'm going to go to one of those high schools. I know where that high school is. And it made those superhuman figures for me feel relatable.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like as a 12-year-old or 13-year-old, like maybe I could do this. They're not any different than me. They grew up going to the same high schools that I went to. Yeah. So that was a huge part for me, like growing up, is having that kind of relatability to those guys.
Yeah, and I think it's twofold. I think people take for granted like what it takes for us to get to the level that we got to. Like, yeah, some people think, well, you were gifted enough, you were going to get there. It's like, no, like I lived in Arlington, Texas. It's not like I was in this major city where it's like, oh yeah, there's scouts everywhere. It's like, no, I worked my tail off and I had to earn everything that I got. But when you talk about, okay, what's the realistic expectations of getting to the level that we get to? For me, and for most of us, like you never really have the thought of the numbers. Like when you look at the numbers and there's so many millions of kids that play Little League and how it dwindles down to just the 20-something thousand guys who ever put on a big league uniform, I never thought about what those odds were. It was just, I'm gonna go play baseball and I'm gonna get to the big leagues.
Yeah, I've talked about it too. Like my naiveness of my journey, I had no idea the numbers. I had no idea like the path that it was supposed to take. So much so when I got in the minor leagues, I thought I was like a level. I thought they were going to call me to the big leagues. Like I didn't realize I had like 7 steps to go to get there. And I think it was part of my superpower was I didn't know what I was getting into, and I really just enjoyed playing baseball as a kid. I wanted to be a big leaguer when I was a kid. What kid doesn't want to be one? But I never played as a kid to be a big leaguer. I played to enjoy my baseball season, then go play basketball, then go play football, go do other things. I mean, it sounds like you had a very similar upbringing with kind of playing multiple sports and just being a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to keep that same mentality all the way through. Like, I never wanted to look at it as a job. It was like once it got to be a job, then it became more of a struggle, in my opinion. Like to be able to keep that childlike mindset, but obviously still work for it. You still have to work for it, but you don't want it to be a grind. And it starts to become a grind as you get older and you're working through the physical things. And mentally, like now you think you can probably still go out and do it, but physically, you'd blow out as soon as you try to do something. But that part of you never changes. So for me, I think that was what helped me become who I was and helped me stay there as long as I could. Just your mentality as you go through that process is, we are, not to say that we're crazy, but we're crazy, especially being hitters. Like you think you're going to get a hit every time you step in the box, knowing full well if you do it 7 out of 10 times, you're an all-star, which doesn't make any sense in any other form of life. So the struggle of it is what people can't really comprehend, because we play with so many guys that at the big league level didn't know how to handle the struggling side of it. And that's 70%, 80% of the battle.
I want to go from that gap where you said at 10 years old, you were possibly the 5th best player on your team. And then at 15 years old, you meet your now wife and you tell her you're going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Did something change in those 5 years? Or is this just something you told your wife, like, I'm going to be a top 5 pick? Is it something you had to like mentally just like kind of trick yourself to motivate yourself? And at this point, in your research, you were a unbelievable high school quarterback as well too.
I was a quarterback. Yeah. I don't know about unbelievable. I was going to Texas.
State?
Yeah. I was going to Texas to play both sports. I mean, that was.
So you were going to UT to play both. That was going to be my question.
Yeah. I was going to do both there. I mean, I signed a full baseball scholarship and they were going to transfer it over because I signed early. Football is my passion. Like, that's what I love to do. I missed
Partially
it for years.
Partially because of your dad playing?
Partially, and it's just it's a different energy.
Towards?
Like it's.
Who was the head football coach at Texas at the time? Was it?
So at that time, it was Mac Brown.
It was Mac Brown. Okay.
Yeah, and that was, they were going through kind of like their heyday with Ricky Williams, and that was when they're starting building a championship team until Vince Young took over. So then, but that was what I thought I was going to do, was go there and do both. And
so you would have had Mac Brown and Augie Garrido. Yeah,
that was Augie's first year.
Dang.
Yeah, and it was epic.
2 absolute legends.
And Augie, when I went to go on my baseball visit, I took one visit. That was the first one I took, and I had other ones scheduled, and they were playing A&M, and they lost A&M. So I go in the locker room after the game, and Augie starts like pointing out all the good things that happens, and he flipped a switch and just started cussing out everybody. I'm like, this is awesome. And the recruiter's like, okay, it's time to go. We got to go. I'm like, no, it just got good. Like, I want to hear this. And I left. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
Was part of that because of your football background that you like being coach hard like that?
I loved it. Like, that's, in my opinion, that's, you have to be able to challenge kids, and you have to see how they respond. And the ones that can respond and absorb it and love it and want to be better because of it, okay, we can work with that. And I get both sides of it. Like, you have to be careful with some of them, but I
think that's why, like, those Texas teams, like those Augie Garrido Texas teams, like, they obviously were talented. Like, those were talented teams, but they were teams that, like, when the lights got really bright and the heat turned up and the pressure got on, like, those guys just elevated themselves to the next level. And I think it's because, the expectations that they had from day one, it just seemed like it was very much a culture thing that Augie had instilled. And then obviously after you're there for a few years, you have upperclassmen that are now holding young underclassmen accountable. And so you would have been stepping into, like, that's probably what you were alluding to, is just like the culture was very evident as a recruit. You're like, I want to be a part of that.
And that was year one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know you post-career, you've spent some time coaching high school football, high school baseball. My question to you is, you take this recruiting visit, legendary coach in college baseball. Was he okay with you playing football as well too? Because it feels like at this time in life, people are specializing at such a young age. And we're talking about one of the greatest college coaches of all time at one of the greatest baseball programs of all time, was okay with you being a dual sport athlete.
Absolutely. He understood it. I mean, he recruited Adam Dunn. He recruited Darnell McDonald. Like, he understood the athlete side of it. And he wanted the best athletes. Like, he went after the best ones and recruited and signed all the best ones because he knew the importance of being a good athlete, and he wanted you to do what you were passionate about doing. And he was going to allow us to do it all.
Dude, yeah, so Adam Dunn was another one. Was he a recruiting class after you, Adam?
He was the year after me. Darnell was the year. We were the same year.
Dude, so it could have been you and Adam Dunn in the same quarterback room.
Yeah.
And on the same baseball field.
Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That would have been.
interesting.
He also, did he sign out of high school? He never went to
He
Texas.
went there for 1 year.
He did go there for 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you never made it on campus.
No, never made it on
No,
campus.
you signed, that was in
That was in 97.
97.
Yeah.
So you were the, now, did you fulfill your promise to your wife?
Yeah,
Would-
fifth pick.
Fifth
Yeah,
pick. All right, yeah.
I was going to say,
So-
too,
Nice.
the interesting connection I saw with Adam Dunn, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw this in my research. Adam Dunn, Josh Beckett, you, same high school, not same high school, all in the state of Texas, same time.
Mhm.
Gatorade Player of the Year.
Yeah.
You beat them out? Okay. I
Yeah,
saw that
but
in
he
my
was a junior,
research.
so I mean that didn't really count.
Who was the junior?
Adam would have been a junior.
Josh
I don't know
Beckett?
what I don't know what year Beckett was. He would have been right around the same time, but I think I might have been older. So
Yeah, but you and Beckett crossed paths in the big leagues quite a bit.
We'll get there. We'll get
Yeah.
there.
I
got
I know.
some good
I know he's been waiting. He's been like in my ear for like the
I
last
love it because
week.
Beckett, like I graduated high school in 2007. So 2007, 03's with Miami or Florida at the
Yeah.
time. And then 07, he's with Boston. And so that's right into like when I'm trying to figure out, and he was like, he was a dude.
Yeah.
But apparently not in the Wells household. He was.
well, it was not in the Blue Jay household, so it was yeah.
So 15 years old, you say you're going to be the fifth over, or you say you're going to be a top 5 pick. From 15 to the draft, what changed?
I no longer look like Kirby Puckett physically from the time that I was like 13, 14, started growing into being a little bit more of a man, figuring out what my body's capable of doing. And then I think I was 180 pounds as a freshman. I think I graduated at 210. So it was like,
So you were a grown man.
I was a grown man,
graduating high
yeah.
school.
like I was a football player playing baseball.
Was there a obviously you talked about your love for football. It was probably your number one. It was probably your passion. It's a tough decision. Obviously, getting drafted 5th overall to the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm sure comes with a nice little signing bonus. Was that a factor, or at that point did you feel like your best path was playing baseball?
The decision wasn't as easy as you think it would be, but I knew deep down baseball was going to be my path, even though my passion was football. It's just you start looking at the math and what the careers are like in both sports and what my talent level was compared to everyone else around me. It's like, okay, you start looking at those things, and then the phone calls start coming in 2 weeks before the draft starts, and then your path is set out before you. It's going to be the top 10 and top 15 picks, and then a few days before the draft,
You felt
the Blue
like
Jays
that
came
kind of
calling.
made the decision for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did, and it was for me. It was at that point it got easy because you're going to be the 5th pick overall. It's time to go play baseball.
So you're the 5th overall pick. You sign. Where do you start your professional career?
St. Catharines, Ontario.
St.
Yeah,
Catharines, Ontario.
Yeah.
What level was that?
that
Was
was
it like low
the
A
short
or like
season.
short season A?
Short
yeah
season.
short season A ball. So
Was
there
that
was
like the New York Penn League?
the New
or-
York Penn League.
It wasn't? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't
what,
think
what was
that team's not
that?
even there anymore.
No,
Yeah.
all of them are gone now.
What was that? What was that like going from Arlington, Texas to St. Catherine, Ontario as an 18-year-old?
Yeah,
And for a lot of people listening at home, I don't think the minor leagues gets talked enough about in terms of the lower minor leagues of
Yeah.
like what the lifestyle, what the grind is
Oh, yeah.
like, the living arrangements. I mean, I went from, granted, it wasn't necessarily a huge step down from where I was playing college. I used to get dressed in the parking lot at my college, my Division II school. Like I'd go from class, have my baseball clothes in the truck, change in the parking lot, go play. So going to pro ball and having a clubhouse was an upgrade, but I was also in Bluefield, West Virginia. So like
okay.
I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Where am I? I mean, I grew up in Southern California my whole life, and now I'm in Bluefield, West Virginia. And the only rules were don't go to the bowling alley because no good happens there. My first meal was a microwavable meal from a gas station. I slept on a mattress with no covers, no pillow. Like it's not like this glamorous
Right.
lifestyle that a lot of people think that all athletes live.
Oh yeah, no, the minor leagues suck, man. Especially those lower levels. Like we were making $900 a week
Yeah.
every 2 weeks, and then I lived with 6 guys I had never met in my life. And yeah, I was a bonus baby, but I got the check and just put it in the bank. Like, it was just, I'm going to go play baseball. And fortunately for me, like, the year before that kind of helped shape me for that time. Like, playing with the Dallas Mustangs, so at the time was the team to play for in this area. And we played 80 games in the summer.
Oh, wow.
Like, we lost 3 games. Like, we traveled everywhere. We played against Ito, played against Mulder, played against all those guys, and we beat everybody. And it prepared me to be away from home. But the minor league life was, you show up and food is peanut butter and jelly and deli's cuts if you're lucky. If you're lucky, yeah.
And a lot of times it's post game concessions. Whatever they don't sell, you're eating.
Oh man, our pregame meal. So it was my team. So up the middle, it was Cesar Torres and Michael Young, and then I was in center. Our pregame meals were, we'd have our bat boy go to Dairy Queen and get footlong chili dogs and slushies. Yeah,
that's the meal of an athlete.
Oh yeah,
right
that's. I mean, you talk about just a balanced diet right there. So when you get drafted, and you're probably like, I don't know about you, like, is there any part of you that's like, are you just like trying to stay where you're at, or are you like, hey, what's my road? What's my path to the next level? What's my path to the big leagues here? Because who was the starting center fielder in Toronto when you got drafted?
So at that time, let's see, that was 99. It was veteran guys. Like, it was, I mean, Jose Cruz Jr. just had gotten there. Sean Green was there. Shannon Stewart was there. Like, it was guys who were
maybe not
even on my radar, but like, it wasn't like, it was not even a thought in my mind. It was like, okay, let's embrace this professional experience. Let's see let's go attack it. And for the first month, I sucked. Like, it was hard because you're not used to playing every day. Like, 2 weeks into it, I was exhausted. Bats started getting heavy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this sucks. And then it clicked. And I think I was hitting like 280, 290 for the first month of the season. And then it clicked for me. And I think I ended up hitting 310 for that first, 3 months of my professional career. But that was kind of when it clicked, is when I knew, okay, this is something I can do.
So what changed? Was it a coach that you had? Was it a guy like you mentioned, obviously a Hall of Famer in my book, Michael Young? Yeah. Is it a guy like that you leaned on, a coach?
Our relationship, Michael and our relationship is still tight to this day, and it was formed in those early weeks of being together.
Was he one of those 6 roommates you lived with?
No, he wasn't actually. No, he was just, once I got to the field, he was my saving grace. Like, it was the two of us and Cesar, we played the game a little differently. We saw the game a little differently. We talked the game differently. And our bond at that point became so strong that it was just like, we pushed each other. So it became a daily challenge between Michael and I of like, all right, who's going to hit better today? And that carried on throughout our big league careers.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful too, because I feel like a lot of times you get a lot of your close friends on your team are guys that are in a similar position as you, because you spend a lot of time with your position group, right? Mm-hmm. And then you want to have this brotherhood, but in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, it's me or him, right? So the fact that you were able to have, I guess Mike was playing short at the time.
Yeah, so
Mike was playing short and Cesar was at
off.
second.
They would switch off.
So they were playing middle infield, but like the fact that you had guys that weren't your immediate competition be some of your best friends was probably like huge, and being able to push each other and edge each other on to try to get to the next level.
Yeah, because I think my off outfielders were 25 and 28 and didn't speak like English.
25 and 28.
Yeah, and
like
short season A ball.
And short season A ball.
One said he wasn't 28. He said he was 23, but he was 28. So yeah.
So you finished that year pretty strong. The following year, do you get an opportunity to go to big league camp for the first time?
I don't. I went to instructional league and spend that month.
So you go to Instructs in 97.
Yeah, Instructs after 97.
And then 98, you just go straight to minor league camp.
Straight to minor league camp, go to Hagerstown, Maryland, which you don't ever need to go to.
No.
You're not missing out on anything. And hit 285 there. I was like, okay, it's decent, good year. But from there, I went to Australia. So actually, let me rewind. I go back to Instructs for a month.
So you spend the whole year in A-ball?
Whole year in A-ball.
Whole year in A-ball, okay.
Go to Instructs for a month, go home for a week, go to Australia for 3 months, come home for a week, go to big league camp in 99.
When did you get your big league camp invite? Did you know you were going to big league camp?
It was in my contract.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, so it was-
Okay.
So when you signed, it
Yeah,
said
when I
second year,
signed
you would be
second
in
year,
big
I was
league
going
camp.
to I was going to go to
All
the
right.
league
I didn't know
camp.
if you got your invite because
Yeah.
of Australia or
So
something.
Yeah.
what was that experience like? Obviously, short season's one thing. It's a big gap for a lot of people, especially that come from high school. Even someone who came from college, the gap was big because you're not playing every day.
Right.
Short season's only 3 months. Now you're playing a
Mhm.
6-month season. You're playing every day. Then you go to Instructs, and then you go play in Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long year.
Long year.
And then you had a pretty good year in A-ball, hitting 285s. Obviously respectable. You're probably, 19
I was
years old at the time,
19 at that time.
which you're playing with guys a lot older than
Yeah.
you. What was the experience like going to Australia? What'd you learn about yourself?
Mhm.
And then, during that time, you knew you were going to big league camp. Did it prepare you for, what you were about to enter?
Australia was unique in the fact that we only played games on the weekend, but we practiced all week. And it was the first major turning point in my professional career because I got to really, truly understand my swing. Just swinging the bat the entire offseason, understanding what I was capable of doing. Like those things, to be able to repeat my best swing as often as possible are things that I continued to see throughout my baseball career with the best that ever played the game. So for me, Australia, even though it was a different experience, was the key to me becoming who I became that following year. So yeah, I mean, it was odd to be in Sydney, Australia, and Perth and Melbourne and go play these teams and play with a bunch of guys that played cricket. Dude, we'd take batting practice and guys wouldn't use gloves. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? And they're
Sure.
catching line drives with their bare hands because they're used to it in cricket. I'm like, you guys are freaking crazy. And the way that they talk to women, I'm like, you can't say that. Like, if you said that in America, you'd get arrested. But for me, the experience was awesome. And yeah, it was a grind. But from that point on, I got home, like I said, for a week, went to big league camp. And that was my first experience of kind of being in those.
So at
that
that
environment.
time, you talk about kind of being able to master your swing because you're doing it year round. Was there someone that you kind of looked up to, someone you emulated, someone you wanted to be like at that time that, kind of you watched him on TV and you're like, I want to be like that guy. I like his swing. Was there someone you looked up to?
No, there wasn't. Like, it was weird at that time just being in a foreign place where baseball wasn't obviously on television. It wasn't the time for baseball. Like, it was just me and myself and the hitting guy that was in Australia. And it was really just a matter of, okay, let's figure out what's best. Let's take it into batting practice. Let's take it into games. Let's see how this works. I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm driving the ball everywhere. Let's stick with this. And then it just became, okay, let's perfect this swing and let's be as consistent with it as
So
possible.
kind of the idea of not playing so much, but actually having time to work on
Yeah.
yourself was
Yeah.
a huge
Yeah.
part of your kind of development.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that's something that people take for granted is just that time we're able to spend just honing our craft behind closed doors sometimes, just figuring out what's best. And then if it clicks, okay, now I have to be the best at repeating my best swing. And if I can do that, then I can be successful.
So is that something you would kind of, I don't want to say go back because you talked about, playing, with the Dallas team playing 80 games a year. Was that something you would kind of advise some of the younger guys to do now? Because it feels like some of these younger kids, even starting at 7 years old are playing 80, 90, 100 games a year, where you felt like the biggest gap in your development was not playing the games, but having time to work on yourself. Is that something you would advise a lot of people to do is like, hey, play your baseball season and then go play some other sports. But during that time, like take time for yourself to master your swing, be able to go in the cage and work on some things, figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, even in that time playing with the Mustangs, even playing games, like now it's more showcase driven. Like you're not playing baseball games on a regular basis to understand and really learn the game. Like it was odd being when I was with Anaheim and Trout was getting to the big leagues and I was playing left, Torrey was playing right, and Mike was playing center. And we'd come in during pitching change and stuff like that. And we'd talk about situations. And it's like, what are you going to do if the ball gets hit here? It's like, I don't know. I'm like what? Like we talked about, we knew situational baseball, like it was the back of our hand. So that was kind of the educational part, like just seeing how much the game had changed because it was a showcase game as opposed to playing baseball. Like as kids, we played baseball. Like if we weren't playing baseball, we were practicing the game. Like we were going to situational stuff. All those things were taking place for the development of becoming a baseball player, which now it's a business.
Yeah, I think about times like growing up, being at the beach or at the lake with, you know, a lot of my friends and my parents, and like we were setting up double cuts like in a wiffle ball game. It was just like that was just kind of how we learned how to
Right.
play. It was like, hey, you know, or we'd be in the field and be like, hey, if he hits this ball here, like I think we got a chance at third, you know. And that was we were playing wiffle ball.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about, you know, kind of towards the end of your career being in the big leagues, you know, with arguably one of the greatest players to ever play, and you're like, hey, if the ball's in the gap, where are you going? And he doesn't
Right.
really understand,
Yeah.
you know, what to do with the ball, where to throw it.
Yeah. It was eye opening, but it goes back to just developmental side and the minor league side. It's like, what are you teaching? Like, why aren't your guys equipped to know exactly what to do in every baseball situation? Because that's their job down there, is to teach that to your guys, so they're prepared for once they get to the big leagues.
Playing every day, like this is one thing that I always like. So I got to play with some really good everyday players too. But like, so like I got to play against you when I first got to the big leagues, and I got to play against some really great players. But you don't really fully, I feel like, understand or respect the guys unless you see them. Like when you see the work they put in every day. So I remember watching like guys like Michael Brantley or Lindor or somebody, like they're clearly like they're grinding, right? Like they're struggling, but they've still got to go play every day. And then they're working on it pregame, even sometimes postgame. Like they're trying to grind through, you know, a slump where you can tell like they're like, man, I feel like I'm literally holding the wrong end of the bat.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you talk about your time in Australia, was there something over there, or was there a coach or something was there one thing in particular that kind of clicked your ability? Because I feel like that is the ability to adjust and make adjustments throughout a 162 game season and 180 days. Your talent's one thing. The ability to like kind of go through slumps and come out the other end of them without, you know, because sometimes guys will go into a slump. Like a guy will get called up, he's doing well, he goes into a slump, and he never gets out of it, and he ends up getting sent back down to the minor leagues or whatever. Yeah. But the guys who are able to kind of work their way out of it, and then, you know, they get back into they go through a little slump and they get out of it. Was that something you felt like you learned how to do, or was that something you felt like just, you know, it just kind of came natural to you?
I definitely learned it, but I learned it in the minor leagues. Like I think that was the thing of having those different more minor league teams, more opportunities to have those failures. Like it's hard to have those failures in big league ballparks. Yeah. Like if you haven't gone through them in the minor leagues, when there's 1,000 people in the stands, that's when you need to go through them. That's when iron sharpens iron. Like you got to be able to weather those storms at those points, because it's hard to do at the big league level if you haven't done it, and it's hard to do it even if you have. But it's nearly impossible for guys to struggle in that atmosphere, with the media, with social media, with everything that's out there these days that tell you how bad you are. If that's your first time, I feel for you.
You pretty much play year round. You play A-ball, instructs. You go to Australia to play, and you got a big league invite. You show up to big league camp. That's what, 1999?
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Who were kind of the guys in Toronto at the time when you walked in and you kind of had this almost, you know, welcome to the big league moment? Because that was probably your first time as a professional. You walked into a big league clubhouse. Obviously, you had your experience as a kid being around big league guys, but it's different when you're wearing the same uniform.
Yeah. Yeah, in that moment, it was just, okay, yeah, I know who all these guys are. But at that time, it was like you keep your mouth shut, you keep your head down, you don't say a word unless you're spoken to, and you go about your business. So that's what I did. I was a 20-year-old kid that I was going there. I got an invite to be there. I was going to enjoy every day that I had an opportunity to get on the field and play and hopefully take advantage of it. And I had a good spring training, but I didn't know what was going to take place that full season.
I know during that time it was a lot different. Obviously, we're a little bit younger than you. The environment's changed a little bit when you walk into a big league clubhouse, especially as like a young guy in spring training. You can be yourself a little bit more. You can kind of fit in. Was there a guy that kind of took you under his wing when you were a 20-year-old in spring training that was like, hey, come with me, it's going to be okay?
Not at first, because you start entrenching on people's territories. Like that's the thing. It's like, okay, they know you're a first round pick. They know that you're likely going to be the future. And if you're playing their positions and they have close friends, it's like you're kind of shunned a little bit. It's like, okay, we're going to let this kid just be off over here. We're not really going to embrace him yet until we basically feel like he deserves to be embraced, which that's cool. That was the way the nature of baseball was at that point. You had to earn your stripes, which I think it lends for the greater respect for guys that went through that time period of like, it was rough. Like guys made it hard. And for me, it was that big league camp. I don't actually remember much of it because it was just, I was there at 20 years old. It was for me was just the first time of being in that environment, being in a big league clubhouse, even though it was just spring training. It was like, okay, keep your head down, put your work in, and earn everything that you get.
Was there any, I'm trying to think, 99. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how old I was in 99, but
Yeah,
I'm trying to
please don't.
think who, was,
Yeah.
you know, a Blue Jay at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the
probably-
names of the Delgados. And,
Yeah, Carlos was okay.
It was, so it was David Wells on the pitching side.
Some big names.
Yeah, it was big
so
name
like there's
guys.
some
Like,
bigger
it
than
was-
life figures in
Yeah,
there. You know,
like
you're
it
walking
was
into the
a potential
clubhouse.
playoff team that was in that clubhouse. So for me, it was like, okay, you're just this 20-year-old kid who's not going to impact our season whatsoever. So congratulations being here. We've all been here, and soon you'll be gone.
I know you smirked a little bit when we brought up 99, 4 levels in 1 year.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people at home don't really understand how the minor league works. It would be kind of rare to do 2 levels in 1 year. Like it's really hard to get promoted mid-year. Like you got to really be doing something special. You know, sometimes injuries happen. You might get promoted. They might send you back down to your previous level.
Right.
But to go from what would have been high A to double A to triple A and eventually make your debut in the same year, I don't know if I've ever heard anything like that.
It's pretty wild. So you broke camp in high A. Was that in the Florida State League?
Yeah.
So you went to Dunedin?
Yeah.
And then you went
to Knoxville.
Knoxville.
Yeah.
Okay, so Knoxville was that because I think they're now, is it New Britain? Is their double A team or something?
I think so.
Double
Yeah.
A is still like New Hampshire, I
New
believe.
yeah.
New
Manchester, New Hampshire.
And then triple A
It was in
was
Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go from Florida to Knoxville to Syracuse. Tell me about the day you got called up or the day they told you were going up. Who was the manager in AAA? And was the manager the one that told you? I'm assuming it was.
It wasn't actually.
What?
I got a phone call at 9:00 in the morning from our big league manager at the time,
Who's the big league manager at the time?
Jim Fergosi,
Okay.
and God rest his soul. So we need you in the big leagues tonight. Like
Tonight.
Yeah.
And you were where?
I was sitting in my extended stay hotel with my fiance at the time. Actually, no, she wasn't even my fiance at the time. Still my girlfriend at the time. And it's like she had packed me up from Dunedin to Knoxville. I'd packed my stuff up from Knoxville to Syracuse. And luckily, I still didn't have as much stuff as we went through those times, but helped me get from Syracuse to Toronto that night.
Yeah, I want to get to the big leagues, but like let's just talk about that experience going from start in high A. You get a call. How early in the year you're going to double A?
So,
and then what kind of numbers were you putting up? Like, did every single one of these feel like, hey, I dominated, I did what I needed to do, this promotion was justified? It wasn't so much about, hey, we invested a lot of money, he's the future, he's a first rounder.
Yeah.
Like you felt like,
man,
I came, I saw, I conquered, next.
That was one of those years where it was every bit of that. Like Florida State League, All-Star game MVP, ended up winning the MVP of the Florida State League, being there half a season. Got called up after the All-Star game, and go to Double A, and I'm like, okay, this is where it gets real now for me. And I remember getting in the box first at bat. It's like, all right, first pitch you see, let's go ahead and take a rip at it. Get a high fastball, hit it out. I'm like, all right.
Sure.
For about a week after that, I struggled, and one of my coaches said something like, hey, are you going to wake up? I was like, oh, well said. I ended up hitting 340 for that month. Month goes by, get another phone call. Like, hey, we need in AAA. Somebody got hurt. Cool. Let's go. Hit 310, 320 in AAA for a month, and then get another phone call, which getting the first phone call is like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But getting 2 more phone calls and ended up in the big leagues didn't make any sense whatsoever.
And still 20 years old.
Still 20 years old.
That's sick. So you get the call, you show up. Who are you guys playing, and where's the team?
Yeah, we're playing the Minnesota Twins facing Joe Mays. And Joe Mays was four-seam heater, 90, 93, off-speed pitches.
In Toronto or in Minnesota?
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we drive from Syracuse to Toronto. And
you're in the lineup that night.
I'm in the lineup that night, hitting second. Yeah. So I'm thinking.
And hold on, before you obviously did someone get hurt at the big league level, or it was like, hey, it's Vernon's time?
Yeah, they just
go.
thought it was my time.
It was your time to go.
I think Jose Cruz was struggling a little bit, and they're like, okay, let's try to infuse something into whatever's going on. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I show up and I look at the lineup. I'm like, okay, I'm hitting second. Like I'm not just in it, I'm in it. Like this is real. And if you guys, but my career is like I think the first pitch fastball looks as good as any other pitch in the count. So if there's something hanging or heater middle, I'm taking my chances at it. So I'm thinking the same thing. Same thing I thought going in AA, the same thing I thought going in AAA. Is like I get first pitch heater, I'm gonna let it rip. Like just get all the jitterbugs out, get it out. He throws me a 91-mile-an-hour four-seam right down the middle, and I took it. And I'm like, what is going on?
They just lock you up.
Yeah, I'm like, what in the hell am I doing? This is after the first pitch in the big leagues. And I didn't get a hit for 2 games. And I'm like, this is the longest 0 for streak I've ever had in my life. Like, that's what I'm thinking. That's what it felt like. And it wasn't. And then my manager at the time, he's like 2 games into it, and he says, I don't know if this kid's ready. I'm like, what the hell? Okay, fair enough. Next game, get my first hit, score a game-winning run on an infielder's choice, and his comments after the game were, man, this kid's going to be something else. I was like, this is the nature of baseball. That's what have you done for me lately? So that was
that's a nice introduction.
So
to
I remember,
big leagues.
I just remember like the feeling I had. Obviously, like your debut, like it's games moving fast, like it's you got all these emotions. But I remember looking up. We were in Cleveland. I remember looking up for the sign for the first pitch I was going to throw, and I felt like I was pitching from center field. Is that what you felt like after? Like, did you feel like you're like things just didn't look the same? Because it's like probably the first time that you've been in a stadium that's got a third deck,
right?
Like that's one thing they say too. There's like, hey, like don't look up when you go. Like don't look up because all the minor league stadiums they only have 2 decks. Big leagues they've got 3, and
that's my message to any guys that I talk to that are getting a chance to get to the big leagues for the first time. It's like, hey, it's the same game, just new place. Like don't look at it any differently. It's AAA and with better lights. Like for hitters, it's better lights. You get to see the ball better. Like play the mind game of no, it's just a better situation for you to be in. Because you start looking at everything and looking at all the people. It's like, what is going on right now?
So who was the first guy that you faced or like first moment that you had in the big leagues where you're like, oh snap, like this is it. Like this is like there's no levels above this, right? Like this is the show. So what was like your kind of like welcome to the big leagues? Like here's an aspirin trying to hit it, or you watched a guy do something on the field where you're like, I didn't know a human being could do that. What was your first experience with that?
Well, I think that entire first month of my career was like that. Like just being there at 20 and like not understanding like what the heck am I doing here in this situation at this time when I just started off in A-ball a few months ago. And that whole month was just, for me, was a learning experience that I really wasn't prepared for, but I ended up hitting 260 and I was like, okay, I hit 1 homer. And because I hit
Where'd
one
you hit
homer.
It off of?
El Duque.
No
Orlando
way.
Hernandez, yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, he hung me a breaking ball, and I hit it literally probably 311 feet because I think the wall was 310.
In Yankee Stadium?
No, it was at home.
In Rochester?
Yeah, it was at home, but it was a cool moment just because.
Man, what a guy.
Yeah, like it
just
was.
Like, that's just such a good name to say, like, who's your first off of?
El Duque.
El Duque.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, such a unique one.
We talk about, welcome to the big league moments. I remember very much like you, I was in an extended stay in Buffalo, got the call early in the morning, like, hey, I think Colby Rasmus got hurt. They needed me. I came up. I didn't go to big league spring training that year either. So I had never really even been around these guys. I was an extra sometimes, from minor league camp, they'd bring me up, but I didn't know anyone. I'd never been to Toronto, never crossed the border. I show up. I don't even know where the bathroom is in the clubhouse. I'm like, luckily Rajah Davis was my locker mate, and he was like, hey, I'll kind of show you around. But
Black dude from Connecticut.
They didn't give me like any information. I was like, I just showed up in a big league clubhouse. They gave me a uniform. I went on. I didn't even know how to get to the clubhouse. I finally like walked out to the dugout and I saw the lineup. I was in it. I was playing left field and John Lester's on the mound pitching. And that was at like the peak of John Lester. And I'm like, wow, what a like moment. Like
Yeah.
much like you too, I was very aggressive. I liked the first pitch cheater and I found myself in an 0-2 count real
fast.
quick. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Oh, yeah.
And then I went 0 for 17. So I had like a very long
Okay, so my 0
stretch.
for 7 was a little
0
bit
for
shorter.
17.
Yeah.
So I
Never
was-
think I was going to get a hit.
Yeah.
Do I belong?
So I had a similar experience. So I didn't go to big league camp. I went 4 levels the year I got called up. Granted, I was completely different. I was reliever. I wasn't an everyday guy, but when you move like that, I can say like I remember going that many levels and it just being like all like you never really get a sense of like getting your feet comfortable wherever you're at because you're like, what is going on? Like, you know, like when you go from high A, double A, you're like, okay, this like I can picture this, right? Like this is like, all right, I know the guys that are here,
Mhm.
you know, and then you go to triple A and it's like, huh, that was unexpected. But, you know, and then it's like, bam, you're going to the big leagues. And I got called up in July and mine was, we're playing Baltimore. And first thing I thought was these guys are all huge. Like Adam Jones was a center fielder, and that guy's massive. And I was like, wait, he's playing center? And Jim Thome was in the lineup for Baltimore.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things where it's like, I shouldn't be here. Like I don't know what I'm doing here. Derek Lowe was starting for us in Cleveland.
Okay.
And it was like I watched him pitch in the 04 World Series. Like I was, you know, in 9th grade. And yeah, ended up getting called into the game. And like you guys said, like you're like, oh, it's 0-2 really quick. I found myself with the bases loaded real fast. And like I was 5 minutes into my big league career and the pitching coach has already visited me on the mound.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, it's like, hey, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. I can't feel my feet. I feel like I'm pitching from center field. I don't know what's going on.
So you finish. You said you finished that year batting about 260. You were probably up what, a month and a half?
Just a day or two over a month because I was going to at that time playoff rosters were different. I was going to be on the playoff roster, so I got called up right at the end of August.
Okay, so you have a pretty good feeling going into the offseason, like I got a chance to be the center fielder. Was there conversations about that?
I thought my offseason was going to be done after the season. I went to Arizona Fall League after that year.
Oh, snap. So you went from the big leagues to the Arizona Fall League?
Oh, yeah.
So you're playing with...
In addition,
you're
you
a
played
big leaguer.
Sydney. You went Instruct, Sydney.
Yeah. 2 years
big
of
league
baseball.
camp, basically 2 years around the clock.
Nonstop.
Baseball.
I led the league. I led Arizona Fall League in doubles because I couldn't hit any homers anymore. Like I was that tired. So yeah, that was the longest 2 years of my life.
You were probably the only guy in the Fall League that had any big league.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
Because that's very
Yeah.
interesting. What was their reason? Did they give you a reason why they're
They had already had it planned out before and
Huh.
didn't see that year unfolding the way it did. I was like, okay, I'm going to go do it.
So you come back the following year, obviously big league camp. You're a big leaguer at this time. Did you get any indication that it was your job to lose? Were you the guy going into it? Did they make any additions in the offseason that kind of would have changed where you stood?
Same group came back. No additions. I think maybe Mondesi may have come in at that time. I think they did add Raul. So that was kind of the only change, but he was a right fielder. So I was like, okay, this really isn't going to affect me much. But we still had veteran guys. So we still had Cruzy, we still had Sean Green, we still had Shannon Stewart, and adding Mondesi. So contractually, I would be the odd person out. And I show up spring training, start off well, and they sit me for a couple games, and then I struggled, and they sit me down, and I handled it poorly. Like I pouted for most of that AAA season.
Yeah, because like in your research, obviously it's easy to see all the great things you did in your career, and you would make a lot of assumptions about your career. But the thing I found interesting is you went 4 levels in 1 year, get to the big leagues, have a pretty good showing in the big leagues, and then there's like a 2-year gap there where you're kind of up and down. Was a lot of that because of kind of what you talked about, getting sent down, kind of being in your feelings?
Yeah.
Did the business side affect you? Did how come you struggled? How come it took you so long to kind of get back?
Yeah, I mean,
or some of it out of your control.
I mean, some of it's out of your control. I mean, you have veteran guys that are in positions that that they're paying them to play the game at that highest level.
You're the only one with options.
I'm the only one with options. So it's like there's part of that. But then it's like, okay, you feel like you should be in a certain place. Whether you really should or shouldn't be, like, that's not really for you to determine.
And I will say for everyone that's watching or listening, when we say options, like on these rosters, when he was a young guy and all these other guys are locked in their contracts, you can't just send Jose Cruz Jr. down to the minor leagues. Right. They would have to make him available. They'd have to designate him, make him available to all 29 other teams for them to claim his contract. Whereas you had options. They could send you down, no harm, no foul, and stash you away in the minor leagues without losing you.
Yeah, and at that time, you could do it unlimited amount of times within one season.
Yep.
And then once you came back to big league camp the next year or finish in the big leagues, you would lose that option.
Yeah, they would do
and
that
you
for
could do
3
that
years.
3 years. Now there's a limit within a year. They can only send a guy up and down, like I think 5 times, and then you lose an option. I think that's something they changed.
Thankfully.
But yeah, so you were essentially, let's say you were the one in the minor leagues and there was 4 guys above you in the big leagues. That doesn't mean you were the 5th best outfielder. That means, roster wise, you were the only one that they could send down without losing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of the business.
But you don't want to see that as a player. You're not thinking about that as a player. You just want to be in the big leagues.
100%.
So during that 2-year stretch, and this would be what, 2000?
So that was 2000.
2000 to 2002.
Yeah.
You're up and down. You're getting an opportunity. You're coming up every once in a while, getting sent back down, coming up. What changed for you? Was it something physically? Was it something mentally? Was it a coach? Was it a mentor? Was it a teammate? Something that kind of changed the way that you thought about who you were as a player?
Yeah.
You kind of said, F the business. I'm going to be the best player I could be.
Yeah.
And at some point in your career, you realize, hey, I want to be a Toronto Blue Jay, but there's 29 other teams out there. If I just continue to ball, I'm going to get an opportunity somewhere.
Yeah, and that never came to mind. But like during that 2000 season, being in Syracuse and struggling more so mentally than anything else, just like, why am I here? And dealing with those emotions and in baseball, especially hitting, like it's already hard enough. And if our mind is someplace else, it makes hitting a whole lot harder than it already is. So I was struggling, and out of nowhere, Deion Sanders decides he wants to try to make a comeback in baseball and ends up in Syracuse, New York, of all places. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing here, but this is really weird. And he was really bad. Like baseball wasn't his thing anymore. Like he was just doing it so Daniel Snyder would end up signing him to another deal, which it worked. But we watched Deion, and he'd make out after out after out, and everybody else would make outs, and they'd come back to the dugout and just the water fountain was broken, the bat rack was beat up, the helmet rack was beat up, because it was the helmet's fault or the water fountain's fault or the bat rack's fault we made outs. But he'd come back, he'd put his helmet up, no big deal, just continue going on about his business. We're like, this is weird. Like, why is he acting this way? And then, sure enough, we finally figured out he'd disappear after BP at home, and we finally found him. He was in the back room reading the Bible. And his perspective on life was just different. He's like, I'm blessed to be able to play this game, and if fail or succeed, it's not going to determine how I conduct myself, how I treat people, how I treat this game, and how I treat life. So at that point, I was like, oh, I think my perspective is wrong. Like, I think I have my priorities in the wrong place. At that point is where everything switched for me. And I attack life differently. I changed everything in my life to be more about him as opposed to result driven. And I went into spring training that next year, and I got sent back down again, but I hit 360 in spring training. Got sent back down. I was like, it's just not written for me. I'm going to go enjoy myself in AAA until it's my time. And
this is 2000.
That was 2001.
2001.
2001 was that
next
wild
year. How a guy like Deion Sanders coming in kind of really changed your perspective on pretty much everything, not just baseball, but life.
Like, my life changed just by watching him conduct himself. And I tell people that story, and they're like, Deion? I was like, yeah, oddly enough, Deion.
That is wild.
So 2001, you have a great spring training. Your mindset's different. Mm-hmm. It's not my time. You go down, you go dominate AAA.
Yeah.
You get a call-up win.
I get a call-up Early on in that season, May-ish, for about a week, get a few hits, hit a homer, get sent back down just because whoever was hurt was held the game healthy. I was like, all right, cool. Get called back up, September call up, hit over 300, and that's when I realized, okay, this is when I'm going to be here.
Did the next spring, so 2002 comes, and so now you've burned an option in 2000, you burned an option in 2001, so you have one option left in 2002. Did knowing that, like, you know, as long as you play, you were going to force their hand regardless, was that also like a factor in like you just kind of be like, I'm going to hit when I can hit, and if they, you know, like they got to play me sometime, or they got to send me somewhere to play.
Yeah. And I'm sure it did play in the back of my mind, but I think once I finished out that 2001 season in the big leagues and hit well and established myself as like, okay, I can play at this level, and everyone around me can see that I can play at this level. And I didn't have the same struggles that I had early on. I could hit the ball the other way. I could do things that I wasn't capable of doing at that level and show it. And so when I got to spring training in 2002, it was just like, okay, let's go make this roster, and let's never see the minor leagues again.
And that's what happened. 2002, you make the opening day roster. What's that? I know you had time in the big leagues, and I know you there's nothing like your debut, but there's also nothing like your first opening day.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like? Where was it at? You remember who was on the mound?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't actually start the opening day. My manager at the time was giving me a reprieve because it was Pedro in Boston.
Because it was what?
Pedro in Boston.
Oh, geez.
He was giving you a mental health day?
Yeah, he was giving me a mental health day. I wanted to do it, but he was like, you know what? We're going to put some lefties against them. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to fight you on this one because
it was in Boston.
It was in Boston. He punched out 16 that day. And I'm sitting there looking. I'm like, thank God I'm sitting here. Like, it was nasty.
So 2002, so you sit opening day. I'm assuming you play the next day. Are you an all-star that year?
Not an all-star that year. I like the first month of the season, which, and one of those things too, it's like I hit 170, 180 the first month of the season, but I had the opportunity to fight through it. Like, that was the thing now. It's like there wasn't a short leash. It was like, okay, this is where you're going to be. You got to figure it out.
I've got your baseball reference page pulled up here. And 2001, you had 96 at-bats, 103 plate appearances. 2002, you had 648 plate appearances.
Oh, yeah.
You played a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You were playing a lot of baseball. And then the next year, you asked about All-Star. 03 is when everybody knows you led the league in plate appearances.
Yeah.
735 plate appearances.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that's a career for some guys.
Yeah, I didn't like not playing.
That is awesome. And you were playing on turf.
On turf.
In the East.
Yeah.
Where it's Tampa's turf, Toronto's turf.
I was also 24 years old, so it kind of
but still.
I was going to ask
735 plate appearances.
I was going to ask you too, because someone that had those early struggles, being sent down, being called up, being sent down, kind of that yo-yo that not everyone experiences, but a lot of people experience in professional baseball. You get a chance to be an everyday guy. How much of that is in the back of your mind? Like, I don't ever want to go back. I'm playing through everything. It's me or no one else. Because that was always my mindset. Early on in my career, I got kind of yo-yoed up and down. And when I got a chance to get a little bit of a runway, it was me or no one else. I could be on my deathbed. I could have a torn hamstring. I was going out there because the fear of going back motivated me to stay.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily that. I think it was just, I was of the football mentality of like, I'm going to fight through any injury that I have unless I can't possibly do it. Like, I played through so much stuff that maybe I shouldn't have, but I felt 80% of me was going to be better than not being out there.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too, is like, I think a lot of us, like the competitor inside of a lot of us is like, man, my 70% is better, is going to be better than the next guy's 100. Like, so just, I'm going to just let me do it with 70.
Yeah. And you have to fight through those things, and you look back at it and you're like, man, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should have, but it didn't really matter. It's like, you wanted to compete, and you wanted to compete regardless of what your body was going through at that time.
So I could name a laundry list of things that I didn't accomplish in my career that I wish I would have accomplished in my career. So you're going to kind of have to explain how this works. But At some point before the All-Star game in 2003, is it in the clubhouse? You get a phone call, you get the letter, they have a meeting in the clubhouse, you find out you're going to be an All-Star for the first time. What's that feeling like? And, how'd they tell you?
Well, at that time, it was kind of when, obviously fan voting and being a Blue Jay at that time, you're not going to get the fan vote. And it was when they started doing the player voting. So the players would get that next class of guys that were going to be on the team. And I was at the top of that list from a player standpoint. And that's when that actually meant more to me than anything, that my peers felt that way about me, saw my ability, respected how I played the game. Like, that was, for me, was the coolest moment of being an All-Star up until actually being able to be in that clubhouse. But that meant so much to me that those guys could see it. They respected it, and I've earned that right to be there.
And you're how old at this point?
24.
So you're 24 years old, first time All-Star. Where's the All-Star game? And then kind of tell us who's in that clubhouse with you.
Yeah, we're in Chicago, White Sox.
White Sox?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And that experience, it was crazy. Like, you look around, you walk in the clubhouse and you look around, you see these names, and you're like, I was a fan of him, I was a fan of him, I was a fan of him. I don't like facing him. And it's like, this is awesome. Like, being in here, go to the home run derby, and like, I was always the person, like, when you had the opportunity to be in an All-Star game, you wanted to be a part of all of it. Like, you hear guys like, I don't want to play in it. It's like, you crazy? Like, it's an honor that you get to be there. And some of them, they were there every year, so I guess it could have been monotonous for them. But being able to be there, be a part of it, and then that game was an epic game. Like, it was a game where Hank Blaylock hit the home run off Eric Gagne.
Yeah,
I was the guy before him, hit the double that scored a run, and I was on second base when he hit the homer. And
so you hit a double off Gagne?
Yeah, and LaDuca was catching. So his catcher was catching, and we all know Gagne. Gagne's 100 and got the nasty split change, whatever the heck it was. So LaDuca's catching. Throws me a heater for a ball, I think, first pitch, and throws me that split change second pitch, and I swung and missed that. I was like, and I look at LaDuca, and I'm playing the mind game here now. I'm like, was that the change? He's like, yeah, it was. It's like, man, that thing was nasty. I'm thinking to myself, he's gonna throw it again. Sure enough, he threw it again. I'm sitting on it, and I hit a double in the gap. I'm like, sucker. But that was just the mind games of you play with catchers and thinking about the game at a higher level.
All right, so
that's a good segue.
We talked about this.
Well, before we get to that segue, I just want to finish on the All-Star thing real quick, because he's been wanting to ask you about this forever. 24 years old, you walk around the clubhouse, you're talking about this guy, I'm a fan, that guy's nasty. Oh my God. Like, when does it hit you? Like, I earned the right to be here. I'm one of these guys. Or did it take you getting into the game and being like, okay, this is just another game? When did it kind of feel like you were part of it?
Not till I was standing on second base, and you can almost feel the ground shaking up underneath you just because the fans going crazy. And it's like, okay, this is. It's
got to be hard because you're obviously young. There's older guys. You weren't voted as a starter, so you're coming off the bench, something you're not necessarily familiar with.
And then you're facing Eric Gagne.
You're
like coming off the bench.
You're just watching the game, and you're like, you're probably watching it still as a fan.
Yeah.
But you have the best seat in the house in the dugout. You're getting to bump shoulders with God knows who at 2003. Some of the best players to ever play this game. And then all of a sudden, who's the manager for the All-Star game?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who would it have been?
It would have been the previous.
It would probably been freaking Torrey.
Yeah. No, because 03.
So it was
03 was it Anaheim? No.
02. So yeah, you're right. I think it was Anaheim.
It
may have been Soch. It may have been Soch.
So you're this 24-year-old kid in an All-Star game, and then someone comes.
In 04?
That's what it says of the New York Yankees manager.
It's a 2003 All-Star game.
2003 was.
2003 had been Socha.
Was Mike.
Yeah.
So you're standing there, and then at some point, someone comes and tells you, "Hey, man, you're going in the game."
Marlins beat the Yankees in 03.
Well, you're kind of like a kid in a candy store. Yeah, you're like, okay, it's about to be about the fifth inning, halfway through the game. Our time's coming. We're just kind of looking down, like we're gonna get the word yet. Just like, okay, go get loose.
Who do you remember standing with on the bench? Like, that might have been a first-time All-Star, or someone that you were kind of like talking to on the bench. Where you're like, "Hey, man, it's gonna be our time at some point."
Well, Hank was there, so we were kind of sitting together, close in proximity at the same time when they told us both to go get loose. And anybody knows Hank's crazy. And he was, at least he was crazy at the time, but we were like, all right, it's our time. Like, we're just little kids just getting ready to go playing a little league game that we're just excited to be a part of. And it was just like, okay, now we're a big league all-star going in an atmosphere that's a close game. And the game for us felt like it meant everything. So it's like, okay, let's go see what we can do.
That's awesome. All right. So the games that you played with LaDuca and Gagne, so I was looking at your, just all your stuff, and I noticed like you had a lot of success off some very accomplished guys like Josh Beckett and Mark Burley, two guys that pitched for a long time at the highest level and had a ton of success. And then I also looked at who did you struggle against, because I always like to know, like,
Right.
you know, who were you sprinting to the batter's box for, or who were you dragging your bat up there for? And I noticed one guy, I remember this guy, but Daniel Cabrera with Baltimore.
I hate that name. Yeah.
And man, he was nasty, but there was a very big difference there. And I kind of have a hypothesis, but I'd like to hear it from you. But Daniel Cabrera was not considered I don't think he ever was accused of having great command.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And, you know, I think
unless he wanted to hit you,
nobody really dug in on him. But like a guy like Burley had a ton of success setting guys up, playing the game. Even with Beckett. You know, Beckett had power stuff, but he could get a fastball away, spin you down and away, and then go up and in, and maybe front hip you. So was there? Because I feel like in today's game, it's kind of lost a little bit.
Right.
Like, you don't see it near as much. Like, I remember coming up in the minor leagues, like, hey man, watch out, these hitters will set you up. And I'm like, you know, and I remember like first couple of years in the big leagues, I'm like, I'd be out there, I'm like, he took a fastball away, is he setting me up? Or like, you know, he took a first pitch breaking ball, he's sitting on it. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. But is that something that, like, the reason why you liked facing those guys was that you just saw them well, or did you like to think along with the pitcher? Did they have just certain guys tip and you saw that? Like, explain that one to me, because I think that's something that people listening or watching would love to hear.
There's a lot to unpack there. We'll start with Daniel Cabrera. Okay. Yes, I was afraid for my life facing him. I mean,
he's a big guy, threw hard.
Yeah, and they said he was, I don't know, 6'7", 250 pounds, strong as can be. And they said he would get his food and he'd wrap his arm around his food and just eat and just watch people as he's eating. Like, you're not going to steal his food. Nobody's going to take his food anyways. But I always tried to make friends with everybody. I don't care what language you spoke. If you were opposing pitcher, I was going to say, what's up? Like, I wasn't going to be the one that's going to get hit when things went sideways. Yeah. But for him, I was still afraid for my life, because I was like, you throw 100, somehow your curveball's at 90 and it looks like your fastball, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I'm like, I think I started off 0 for 20 something against him. So there was one game we took an approach of, we're just going to stat you. He's going to throw 4 balls before he throws us 3 strikes. Yeah. We're like, all right, that's not in my nature. And I was like, all right, I'm game. Let's do it. And I'm hitting 4th this game. So sure enough, first 3 guys, it works. So I get up to the plate and I'm like, all right, the stature approach is working. Take ball 1, take ball 2, take ball 3, and I'm like, I think I'm seeing him pretty well. Like, and I'm still mired in this 0 for whatever streak against him. So sure enough, I'm thinking to myself, I know what, I'm gonna take my chances. He throws me a 3-0 fastball and it moves like this, and it ends up out of the strike zone, and I swing and miss by about 6 inches. I'm like, crap, I don't think I'm supposed to swing at that. And I look at my dugout and they're like, what are you doing? I was like, okay, we're good. Second pitch, I'm like, I think I'm still seeing it fine. Throws me another heater, it moves somewhere else, and I miss it by 12 inches. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? Like, why am I swinging at this pitch and I'm not supposed to be swinging? I looked at back of the dugout and again, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. You know what happens the third pitch? I'm on it. It's like I'm seeing it. I'm good. We're good. I'm gonna hit a grand slam. Another pitch later, I'm walking back to the dugout, swing it again. And they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I really don't know what just took place, those 3 swings. Like, I knew I shouldn't have been swinging, but I thought I saw him well. But then he started trying to pitch and got down to like 93. And I was like, I felt far more comfortable. I started getting hits off of him. But he did, when he knew where the ball was going, if you pissed him off. Yeah. Or if you actually started getting to him, and somehow I ended up on second base during the streak. I think he walked me once. and there's a base open, and Eric Hinske was hitting, and we had scored 6 or 7 off of him, and I was like, this is the moment where it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Boom, 97 in the middle of Becky hits Hinske, and Hinske had some anger issues, but he controlled him in that moment because it hit him. He took his helmet off. He turned to him, and he looked at him and realized that's probably not the fight I want to take on right now. I put his helmet on. I went to first base. It's like, thank God, because he was about to get destroyed. But yes, he was my nemesis. Then you look at Burley, Beckett. Burley and Beckett are different for me.
Yeah.
Burley spoke my language. He worked fast, attacked the zone with everything.
Yeah.
And he was crafty. So it's like he's gonna try to manipulate you. You don't fall into swinging a cutters in, make him get the ball out over the plate. We're good. Start off well my career, and then he started noticing like what the hell's going on? Why is everything that I throw up there? Why do you keep hitting it? And he starts yelling at me. Like I start walking up to the plate, and he's cussing me out as I'm walking up to the plate. He's giving me this as I'm walking up to the plate. I'd get a hit, and he'd just be cussing at me as I'm on base, and it's just like. But he doesn't know is we were playing him at home one day, and it was about to be about the 7th inning. I think it was 1-run game. Guy in front of me gets on. And I'm walking up to the plate, and I have my head down, but I'd always keep my eye on the pitcher just to kind of see if he's communicating with the catcher at all. And I out of the corner of my eye, I see him, and he looks at the catcher, and he's like, I'm like, did you just do that? And catcher obviously doesn't see him, and he goes, oh. And I have my head down, and I'm looking at him like, he's going to throw me a curveball. Pitching coach comes out, talks to him. Sure enough, I'm like, oh, he said it. He really wants to throw a first pitch curveball and a hit off the second deck in center field. I'm like, well, you told me you were going to throw it. So I've never really told him that. But yeah, I think I hit 500 off of my career.
Yeah, I know. I think Beckett, I have to pull up your baseball reference, but I think Beckett, you've got like 7 dongs off of.
Beckett was a weird one because Beckett was one of those guys where, like you said, his stuff was
I don't think anybody
as
like
nasty
as
they come, like with everything. He started throwing a changeup too. That was good. Like everything that he threw. And he was one of those guys where we had Red Sox and us and him and with a couple of guys, whether it was intentional or not, he hit somebody in a situation, and it kind of just got everything started. And we just started wearing him out. Like it was odd because he's not the guy that you would expect to have that type of success off of. Like he's one of those guys where in most cases you're like, okay, if I can get just get a hit that night, it's good.
Good day.
Like that's good.
Do you think off him it was so it sounds like with Burley it's like you had a pretty good idea of what he was trying to do and you thought along with him, but with Beckett was it one of those things like you just kind of got to him and it was just, you know, because sometimes it is like a mental thing where it's like, man, that guy's just got a ton of confidence and I'm on the mound and I'm like, I don't know how to get this guy. Like Elvis Andrus was that for me. And like I've had, you know, Elvis had a great career, but I've had a lot more success against guys who've had way better careers than Elvis. But Elvis, man, like he would be sprinting to the batter's box and I would be like, I'm like making stuff up on the mound because I'm like, oh, he's got something or I'm tipping or something like that. And it didn't matter what I threw up there, man. It was finding a barrel.
And oddly enough, I really wasn't sprinting to the batter's box against Beckett. Like I didn't look forward to those at bats because he was that good.
Man,
like I was
good numbers.
Yeah, the numbers don't speak to what actually like I was feeling. It was just I didn't miss mistakes, and if you made a mistake, I didn't miss it. Thankfully.
It's weird. There were certain guys in the game. I could think of a couple guys I faced that were good pitchers, and when it was all said and done, I had good numbers, but just never felt good off them. Joe Kelly being a guy.
Yeah.
Like I hit Joe Kelly, but I was scared to death off him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he wasn't afraid to throw at you either. And he had that running fastball. He had that nasty curveball. And I look back at my numbers. I'm like, I hit this guy pretty good. I don't know why or how. It wasn't like he would run out of the bullpen or he'd be starting and I'd be like, yeah, I can't wait to face him. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. And Josh kind of had that reputation of like, he'd still buzz your tower or hit you if he felt like he needed to. And he never did that with me. Like it was just, he kind of respected the battle of like, hey, we're going to go at each other. I'm going to give you my best stuff. You come at me with what you got, and we'll see who wins.
I want to talk about the day you signed your contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. were you entering free agency when that happened? Did it happen when you were still part of the Blue Jays?
The year before free agency.
The year before free agency. Was this something you guys had conversations leading up to? Was Toronto the place you wanted to be? Was the money so much you didn't want to go to free agency? Like, take us kind of through that whole situation, because I wasn't a guy who was fortunate enough to, sign a long-term deal and, have a team offer me, money like that, but also maybe it was a place you wanted to be.
Yeah. I mean, it was a couple different things that took place. Like 2006 I had a really good year. And 2007 was going to be my last year with the Blue Jays. So it was always home for me. So we felt comfortable there. We had a house there outside the city. So it was like, if we're going to be here, this is kind of what the market is. And my agent came to me and was like, this is where we feel like the market's going to be if you're, let's say you become a free agent after this year, we feel like this is what the market is. And this is what it is, 7 years, 126. And they said that to me and I laughed. I was like, you can go tell them that, but they're probably going to laugh at you just the same way I'm laughing at you, but feel free. Present that to them. Cool. So JP Ricciardi was the GM at the time, and he wanted to have lunch with me after he received it just before the All-Star game that year. And I'm like, listen, this is what they came up with. There's numbers behind it. And this is what they say my value is. And if you see that, awesome. If you don't, awesome. Like no hard feelings. And he was pissed, and he went to the newspapers and talking about how crazy my agent was and all this, blah, blah, blah. So on my birthday, December 8th, I get a phone call from my agent and said the Blue Jays agreed to that deal. And I'm like,
they agreed to that deal?
They agreed to that deal. I'm like, that's not funny. Like it's not something to joke about. And they're like, no, I'm serious. They agreed. I'm like, okay.
And this is a year before you would have been a free agent.
A year before I was going to be a free agent.
Wow.
Man, what an agent.
Yeah.
Who's your agent?
Greg Ginsky. So he had done CC Sabathia's deal. He had done Carl Crawford's deal, like some of the biggest deals that were like around at that time.
So we'll get to this later, but with that deal, you had a no trade.
Full no trade.
It was
the first opt out.
I want to talk about
all
that.
those things. Like all those things were in place in that contract.
No opt outs. No.
No, it was like I had opt outs after 3 years into it, I could opt out. So it was like the first of that kind, like all the languages full no trade.
And you signed that deal in 2000.
At the end of 2006.
End of 2006. So that would have covered, 7 years, it would have covered 07 through the 13th season.
Yeah, the 13th season. Yeah.
What's that? What's that feeling like? Knowing, we talked about your journey going up there, and obviously the struggles that you had after your debut and those couple years in between, and ironically running into a guy like Deion Sanders who kind of changed your perspective. You still kind of have some up and down years, some struggles. You're an all-star. You win Gold Gloves. Your life's in Toronto, and you're about to get to a point of your life where you could be a free agent, and you got one more season to go. And after everything that happened, where they're saying you're crazy about coming up with this number, and you get a phone call your birthday in the off season, probably, at that point in December, you're probably physically starting to get ready for the next year. Yeah. And they tell you just signed a 7-year, 126. What goes through your mind? Like,
it almost doesn't seem real. Like, it's like, that's an absurd amount of money. And when I had the press conference, obviously, after, and they asked me, do you feel like you're worth that amount of money? I was like, no, I don't feel like I'm worth that amount of money. I don't think anybody is, but that's what the market is. So that's what it is. And the hard part, I think, for any player or anybody who signs that deal is just to understand that it's not going to make you a different player. It's not going to make you a different person. It's in the way our system is set up to where you have to put in 5-6 years to be able to have an opportunity to make that type of money on turf, plus the minor leagues. Like, you've now put wear and tear on your body. Mm-hmm. The expectation of still doing that, you fully intend to, like, but is it realistic? Not necessarily, especially if you're not using drugs that are going to help you prolong that career that you've had. So for me, it was battling that part of it early on. It's like, okay, don't put any undue pressure on yourself, because the number's a number. It is what it is. You just got to go out and play the game.
Yeah. How do you not, as a human, not put added pressure in? Do you feel like that's something you kind of talked about not wanting to do that, but do you feel like deep down in there somewhere you felt like you always had to kind of live up to that? Did it change the way that you kind of viewed yourself as a player? You were attached to a dollar figure as opposed to early on in your career. Maybe that dollar figure, you're still attached to a dollar figure, but it's much less.
It's much less. And the outside perspective changes, like kind of what the expectation of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
They expect you to get better because you're making more money. It's like, no, like there were years within those first 5 years where I wasn't that good. It was just because I was a normal person. Like I wasn't genetically enhanced. I was just really good at times, and I was a human at times. Like you're going to struggle. You're going to have those moments. And for me, signing that deal, going into the next season, and there's different injuries that you play through that you probably shouldn't play through, especially when it comes to wrists and shoulders and things like that. But I was like, you know what? Again, I'd rather be out there regardless of what anybody says about me. I know what I'm battling, so it's not going to affect me either way. I'm going to go out and try to produce if I can.
Do you think it's unfair when people will criticize a player for underperforming on their contract, but they never talk about those 4 or 5 years leading up to that where maybe you were making league minimum, but you were an all-star hitting 30, 40 homers a year?
Nobody cares.
And no one cares about that?
Yeah, nobody cares. It's like that's the reality of our business.
And that is something that's like, I do feel like that there's a lot of players out there that, once they sign that deal, it's impossible to
you can't live up to
it. You can't live up to it. But it's not like you stole it from the team. The team, you agreed on it.
Yes, and it's billionaires that are paying it.
Yeah, and honestly too, it's not like the team's not recouping some of that capital back either. It's like, let's look at Shohei's deal. Obviously, like Shohei is still, he's 2-time MVP since signed that deal, but that's $70 million a year. The Dodgers are making a pretty good chunk of change off of just Shohei being the figure that he is.
Yeah, and I feel like the economics of the game have changed so much now, where like those contracts. Well, he's an outlier, but those contracts now are like my deal is like down here now.
Yeah,
in comparison. But at that time, it was. We were setting the market of what things were.
And was that the largest deal in Toronto Blue Jays?
I think it was
franchise history at the time.
The longest and the biggest
at that time. Yeah, because that's something too that very few players, and I think too, when you look at markets and you look at free agent cycles or guys signing these pre-arb deals or whatever, there's such a conundrum there for the player, because say you take a guy like a generational type player, like a Lindor, right? Like we had him.
Mm-hmm.
I was teammates with him in Cleveland. Unbelievable player, right? Like face of a franchise. Obviously, teams now, they're trying to sign that guy early.
Yep.
Right? The reason is because they're like, man, like I don't want to have to pay him later, and we want him here long term, right? He's a great player. City loves him. He's great, all these things. But, and I know that guy is like, man, like X dollars at this point, even though I might be shortchanging myself. And long term, it's going to change my life. It's going to change my kids' lives. It's going to change my kids' lives. But there's also an aspect there too that there's other players that are impacted by what he does. So like Lindor, by him waiting and signing that big deal with the Mets when he got traded over, he moved the needle in that market. He changed it for, like, the next guy that's coming up now is Connor Griffin with Pittsburgh. Like, that guy, he hasn't played a day in the big leagues yet, but,
he moved it for Trey Turner.
But, like,
other guys,
he's going to benefit from what guys like Lindor and the guys A-Rod and, like, the guys that came before him did.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully, those guys, in return, do that same thing for the next generation. So I'm sure, because the Players Association is also a part of these negotiations as well sometimes too, where it's like, hey, this is what we want to offer. Because I'm sure you at that point, even if the Blue Jays were like, hey, we'll give you 7 for 100, which is $26 million less. That's 20% less than what you got. But you're probably, it's $100 million.
Yeah, it's $100 million.
But at the same time, it's like, there's a responsibility here for the guys that are coming after me.
Right.
And so I feel like that's just a part of the equation that not a lot of people get to see or get to understand that's really
Did
taking
you
place.
understand that at the time you were doing it, that you were doing something to move the game forward?
Well, I was actually thrust into being our team rep my first season. So I was thrown into it. My first full season, I walked in the clubhouse. Actually, it wasn't even my first full season. It was 2001 towards the end. They're like, Darren Fletcher's like, I'm going to be done. You're taking over. And I'm like, okay. So 2002, we're about to walk. I'm having it as my first full season guy, first year in the big leagues. I'm telling all these veteran guys, hey, get ready to pack up at the end of August if we don't get things worked out.
Dang.
So it's like, so yeah, I knew all that information going into it. Just like, okay, we are the union we are because of the guys before us.
And you played with guys that were part of that 94 strike probably too.
Yeah.
So because you were, like
it was real.
You were the generation for us. Like I was coming into the big leagues when you were leaving, and you were coming into the big leagues when those 94 guys were leaving.
Yeah.
Right. So like everything that happened in 94, as bad as it was for the game isn't where it is today without those guys.
Yeah. And there was still a hatred for the guys that continued to play. Like it was still real. Like it was still fresh. Like
the guys that crossed.
Yeah. Like it was some guys that were still pissed during that time.
Yeah, so that was probably an interesting dynamic that we never.
Yeah.
It's
foreign to everybody.
What was I going to say? So you signed that big deal. You talked about kind of playing through some injuries. You did have an all-star season after your year. Take me to the conversation. I don't know how many years it was after you signed the deal where Alex took over at the time. JP Ricciardi's not there anymore.
Right.
Alex Anthopoulos takes over. You have a full no trade clause. He comes to you, is this in the off season, during the season, and asks you if it's okay if you get traded?
So Alex and I, even when he was assistant, like our relationship was really good. Like we talked.
So he was
at
AGM before he took over.
AGM,
He was an internal hire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was already in place, and he was working up under JP, and he was really smart, cutthroat. Like he was
honest.
Yeah, honest. Like he was maybe a snake at times, which you have to be. Like he was really good at what he did.
And still is.
Still is.
And
he's the teams that he's built in Atlanta have been unbelievable. Yeah. But we'd have open lines of communication. So at that time, that was when Cito was gone. That was his last year, was 2010. John Farrell came in. So they were trying to figure out, he called me and he's like, hey, let's talk about managers. And I was like, I love John Gibbons. Like he was my favorite. Like
Gibby was a bench coach under.
No, so Gibby was the head coach. He was the head coach. Head coach. He was the manager before they fired him, and then Cito came back.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
Because I played for Gibby, and I love Gibby. He's my favorite manager of all time. I didn't maybe fully understand. He was there before Cito.
Mm-hmm.
Cito, then it was Gibby, and then Cito came back to.
Yeah, it was Cito. Well, it was Cito.
There's someone in between,
Cito,
right?
Several in between.
Yeah,
like Buck Martinez and there's. I think I had five or six managers with the Blue Jays, and then Gibby for like 7, 8, 9, and then halfway through 9 they fired him and brought Cito in, and Cito was there from end of 9 to in 2010, and then John Farrell came in for that. Was it 1 year?
I think 1 year.
1 year. But he
maybe
was
two, maybe 2
maybe
years.
2.
11
maybe
and 12. Because he took over for
Gibby was there when I.
Yeah, Bobby Valentine was in Boston in 12, and then he took over for Valentine in 13. Farrell did.
Okay, so then
he was there 2 years.
He called me and we talked about him for a little bit, and then Alex turned into Alex, and he says, "Hey, what do you think about what do you think about New York?" I was like, "Well," and I was like, "Okay, we're going to play this game."
Yeah.
Like, well, I love New York. If I'm going to be in New York, I want to be a Yankee and I want to be a Met. Yeah, okay. Well, what do you think about LA? And the Dodgers weren't with the Dodgers at the time, and traffic sucks. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to be in California, I'm going to be in that area, I'd rather be in Anaheim and not in LA.
Newport sounds good, right?
It's like, I love that area. And he asked me about a couple other ones. I was like, and I got off the phone and I told my wife, I was like, he's thinking about it. Yeah. So we're at the Mavs game. with Michael Young and his wife, and I got a phone call from him. Show my wife, and she's like, "I guess you're right." So answer the phone. It's like, "Hey, I got to deal with the Angels in place. You can take it or not. Like, no one will ever find out. It's balls in your court. They want you. We're moving in a different direction, and I respect you enough to be like to keep this under wraps if you want to fight this thing through." And he told me what his plans were for the Blue Jays, what the Angels had planned. I'm like, all right, I get it, man. Just give me a day and make a decision. And made the decision and ultimately make that move. And it was emotionally, it's probably the hardest decision I had to make in the game.
Because you'd been with Toronto for how long?
Since '97. I got drafted in '97, and
this is 2012,
2010.
Oh, 2010.
2010.
That's right,
yeah, at the end of 2010. So yeah, make that change. And you talk to people about change and just your routine and the people that you're around, and you take all that for granted. And once you end up in a new spot, like it's like once it's going from East Coast to West Coast, and the travel it's a whole nother
Travel's
monster.
A monster out
Yeah,
there.
it's a monster. Like
it is a
everything.
monster.
Your closest trip is 2.5 hours. It's like, what the heck is going on? Unless you're driving to play the Dodgers or San Diego.
Which could be 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it could be 2.5 hours. Good point. Good point.
In a
Wrong
car.
time. It could be the same thing. So it's like
maybe longer.
Yeah, it's like I never got comfortable. Like it was so weird. It was never a settling feeling being not being a Blue Jay.
Yeah, I like to ask this question too. At what point did you feel like, because we talked about this early on in the episode, where you played the game because you loved it and you always wanted to play it that way, but at some point it becomes a business, and you realize that early in your career with options,
Mm-hmm.
You're getting sent up and down. You feel like you're supposed to be in the big leagues, but they can send you down, so they do send it to you. When did it feel like you kind of lost the love for the game and it was a business? Was it after this trade? Because it was just a difficult thing where I imagine you sign a 7-year deal, 5 years in, 6 years in, you expect to retire at Toronto Blue Jay.
Right.
Like there's some people out there that want to play 20 years, but most people think, hey, I get to 10, 11, 12, 13 years. Like that's a long time to play baseball. It's a lot of wear and tear physically, mentally.
It is.
So you go from feeling like I'm going to be a Toronto Blue Jay for the entirety of my career, potentially have the ability to get my name put up in the rafters, and then you find yourself in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm. And in a really good position, like in a situation where a team that's fully capable of winning with the people that were in that clubhouse. And it's a great situation to be in. I'm like a fish out of water for the first time in what feels like since I walked into the first big league clubhouse in '99. But it never clicked. I had moments, and then injury would happen, and have moments here and struggles here. And it's just like, you just never got comfortable. And
was there a point along that kind of journey of the injuries, the successes, the struggles, where you kind of started to think this might be the end? I'm getting close. Obviously I have years left on my deal.
Right.
Do I still want to do this? Are you putting in the same sort of kind of effort to try to stay on the field, all that sort of stuff? Because we all go through it as a player. Obviously all of our careers, ended differently, and, the end's a little bit different for everyone. But more than physically, mentally, I started, like, it was a little bit harder for me to show up to work every day. Like I had a family and I had kids, and like, I wasn't playing every day.
Mm-hmm.
It was harder for me to get ready. And like, when I was there, I was fine.
Right.
But it was like the lead up of going there. It's like, oh man, I gotta go to work today, as opposed to, man, I get to go play ball today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that moment where you're not doing it every day. It's that moment once you start becoming a platoon guy, you start becoming a lefty guy. It's like, and that didn't happen really until I got to New York, like the second half of New York, because I got traded in spring training in 2013. And
so once you have that no trade clause, do you keep that no trade clause?
Keep it the whole time.
Okay, yeah. So you had to agree to that trade to New York.
I had to agree to that trade, and it was 3 days. We had 3 days left in spring training. I called
Before we go there, though,
yeah.
I want to just talk about, you played with a young Mike Trout
Mm-hmm.
in Anaheim. Obviously, he was on track to probably be the greatest player of all time. He's had some injuries here in the past, but we're talking about a handful of one of the greatest players to all play. Like, you got to witness him coming up as a 19-year-old kid.
He was
20 years
he was
old.
20, I guess, when he kind of.
And there's teams like that. Those
You had
teams
Torrey
in Anaheim.
Hunter.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
Like, we
those
had a
teams in
veteran
Anaheim.
team.
Like you're talking about, like Albert was there.
Josh there?
Albert was there in 12.
In
Josh
12.
got there in 13. But it was veteran guys. Like it was Weaver,
Eric Ibar.
Eric Ibar.
Yeah.
And then you have this young kid,
We
Mike
got
Trout.
Greinke. Like it was, yeah. And then Trout comes, and Trout comes to spring training, and I kind of hear a little bit about him. I didn't really know much about him, and he had this thyroid issue. So he wasn't there for long. Like he lost 20 pounds in a matter of like 3 weeks.
Jeez.
And he was like to the point where like he was crying because he didn't know what the heck was going on. He couldn't throw, like he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And they figure out what it is. And about a month later, he comes back and he was the best player I'd ever seen. Like every night it was, there's nothing you can do that's going to impress me more. And he'd go out and do it again and do it even better. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like,
I always like telling people that, watch it on TV and they think that every major leaguer is like kind of on the same playing field. Obviously your talent versus my talent is great, but you were an amazing player, 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove Award winner. And then you have guys like Mike Trout, and it's unbelievable the talent disparity between a guy like you who had a hell of a career, accomplished so many great things, and then you have the Mike Trouts of the world, and it's crazy that we get to play on the same field as those guys.
yeah, they're freaks, man. That's
and I think it's a shame that someone like hit like the best years of his career. Granted, his career, like I wouldn't be surprised in the least if he goes on like a 5-year tear here where he just plays outside of his mind. I know he's been hurt a lot, but he was on the West Coast, and me being on the East Coast, like I was in Cleveland all those years, and then I ended up playing with him in 19. And so, I knew he was good. I played against him. I was in the same league. I was in the American League with him. We played against each other every year. But it wasn't until I played with him every day in 19 where I was like, wait a minute. What is going on here? Like, it was next level. It wasn't just like this, man, he had a good month or, he had a few of these highlights. Like, he was robbing homers every homestand. It was bananas, like how much better he was than even the other best players in the game.
Yeah, I wasn't even close. Like, that was the thing. Like, I remember we were in Minnesota, and he's whatever. He's the best player in the game at that point, his first 4 months in the big leagues. And he comes to me, he's like, Vernon, what do I do? Like, there's like 80 members of the media that are, because we're going to New York the next day. He's a Jersey kid. And he's like, what do I do? I was like, the way you handle them in that moment will define how they see you and how they view you and how they handle you the rest of your career. So you just go be you. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
You know that. And he was a great kid at that time. He hadn't changed since day one. And he's handled himself that way from day one. That's why everybody.
That's
views him
awesome.
that way.
I think guys like you and guys like Torrey too, because I remember watching it. This was 2012. So Torrey's there. Torrey's in Anaheim 2012. And I remember being in the dugout. This was like after I'd come in early because somebody got knocked out or whatever. And Derek Lowe, who's a veteran guy, and this is when Trout's still like becoming Trout, right? And he was watching Torrey on the on-deck circle with Trout. And you remember it was Fausto Carmona before he became Roberto Hernandez?
Yep.
Right? So Roberto Hernandez is pitching for us, I think, now. And he's a big sinker baller, right? And so Torrey is on deck with Mike. Mike's the first guy coming up. And he's talking to him about his approach. Like, you see him talking and they're talking about stuff. And Derek Lowe just goes, well, we're all screwed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, if you take a guy with that amount of talent and you put those guys around him and he's willing to be taught, game over.
Yeah.
Game over.
I think Torrey went deep twice that game too.
Probably.
I think he did. 'Cause I remember that game, actually, now that you mentioned that. Because I remember facing Lowe. I remember facing Roberto Hernandez, whatever he was at Fausto, whatever. But yeah, I think he went deep that game twice. The fact that I remember stuff like that pisses my wife off.
Really?
Why do you remember all this stuff and you can't remember?
It's hard not
You
to.
forget the
It's-
grocery list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Dude,
know.
it's hard not to though. It's hard
I
not to
know.
remember those things.
Yeah.
I remember facing you. I'd been in the big leagues for about 20 minutes, and I was standing on the mound, and I couldn't get the ball over the plate, and it was like I think I had you like 3-0. I was like, all right, he's taking here. Like he's taking. I'm just gonna massage one in there, and you hit one about 800 feet, but it went foul. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't I'm like, and then the next pitch was like just straight abort, like, left-handed batter's box. And, but I remember that. And then I think I faced you the next year when you were in New York. That was, yeah. So, but yeah, that was, for like a kid. Like I was just like a kid just trying to figure out who I was.
13 was Kluber's first year, right?
Yeah. So 2012 he got called up. So I got called up in 12. Then he came. It was like Cleveland had went on a road trip, and we basically went like 0-10. We were like out of contention at the end of this road trip, and so like at the end of that road trip, it was like guys like myself and Kluber and a handful of other guys were up. Kipnis was already up. And then the next year, that was the team we kind of rode with, and that was Tito's first year managing.
Yeah.
And so that was when everybody was like, man, who's this Kluber guy? And he was a monster.
He was nasty.
He was really good.
That's what I remember thinking. I was like, this game has changed.
Yeah.
Like he's just going whoop, 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 and it's all 94. I'm like, what is going on right now?
Do you feel like at the end of your career, because I felt like that way at the end of mine, where I was like, man, like these guys are just playing a different game now.
Yeah.
Like the game got really, it almost, for me, it happened like almost overnight. Whereas like the game got really hard, really fast.
That's why I don't like comparing generations. Like
Yeah.
comparing guys from, like, you can't do it. Like from the time that I got to the big leagues, I was facing lefties that were Jamie Moyer and Jim Parquet, and they're like, if they hit 90, it was like, good job.
Yeah.
To facing guys that were sitting 95, lefties that were sitting 95. I was like, the game changes so much just in a 10-year span of like, you can't compare generations like that because it's not fair.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that same question because I feel like the time you played was like, it leaked into like when I debuted in 2013, but we also talked about you were also connected to the guys that were part of the strike, and you also played through the steroid era too, right? So you saw so much change in your career, and then I just kind of wanted to segue kind of towards the end of your career. You accept the trade to New York. Probably Anaheim's going a different direction. You get an opportunity. You're at the back end of your career. You get to be a Yankee. It's probably got to be like somewhat of a dream come true to put the pinstripes on, right?
Yeah.
You get to, at the time, 2013, I mean, Jeter's still there.
Yeah.
CeCe's there. Like, I mean,
they're not
it's
far
the
removed from a world
Yankees.
championship.
It's the Yankees, right? So you get a chance to do that. But I always like to ask people, for me, I think I went a year too long. I don't have regrets of playing one more year because inside of me, I still wanted to play. And I talked to a lot of guys that were retired, and they're like, if you have these feelings, go play. I had to have a conversation with my wife, like, I still think I want to play. She's like, okay, go to spring training, see what happens, right? But part of me always wanted to walk off the field on my own 2 feet, which I got an opportunity to do in Anaheim the year before. I told my family, I kind of told the media, I think I'm done playing. I'm going to retire. And it was a rewarding feeling for me, knowing like I survived this game and no one told me to go home.
Yeah.
I got a chance to walk off the field under my own power. And ultimately I didn't get a chance to do that because the Rangers released me. Thankfully, I was prepared to be home. Did you ever kind of have those thoughts of like, okay, I'm going to go to Yankee. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to play well. And I know this is going to be my last year.
Yeah. So I accept. When the Yankees came out of their mouths and they told me that, I was like, oh yeah, like I want to put the pinstripes on. And I tell people it was the first time I ever put a uniform on, and the expectation of winning was different. Like just from putting the uniform on, I was like, that right there just shows just the history that just who they are as an organization. And you can tell. I mean, everything they do is first class. Like it's just different. And I get there in my first month and a half, I think I hit 10 or 11 homers. Like I was like, okay, I'm feeling back to normal. And I tweak my knee in Cleveland, get it shot up. And at that time, I'm 32, 33. And I'm like, I can't just get it shut up like I'm 26 and just think, oh yeah, I'm gonna be good. And from that point on, it was just like, just like, and that's kind of where it sets in. You're like, okay, my body can't do what my mind wants it to do anymore, and it sucks, and it's the reality of it. So yeah, I'm prepared at the end of the season. If they don't want me back, I'm fine with it. And my boys were 8 and 10 at the time, and I got designated and got some phone calls, and yeah, had the same conversation with my wife. She's like, you can keep playing, but it was kind of one of those, like, you look at your wife and she says something, and you're like, I think you're setting me up right now. Because if I say yes, I don't know if this is going to go well. I'm like, I'm good.
When was your last game?
My last game was in Houston as a Yankee, and I think I went 0 for 6 with 3 or 4 punchies. Yeah, it was fun.
Who was the last guy you faced? Do you remember that?
I don't even know. I just
don't even know.
Yeah, I think I was more concerned about my fantasy team at that point because we were out of the playoff race, and I was like, "How's my fantasy football team going right now?"
When did you get DFA? Was it towards the end of the obviously football season? So like August, September.
It was in. Yeah, I mean, no, it was in the off season.
Oh, it was in the offseason.
It was in the
so
offseason.
You finished
I
the
finished.
season.
Yeah, I finished the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had 1 year left on your deal.
I had 1 year left on my deal.
And
got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny, talking to the guy who previously owned this house, former baseball player too, when we were like talking when I was buying this house, he's like, you're going to come to a point when your career's going to be over and you're not going to remember your last hit. I'm like, there's no way, because we remember everything about our career.
Yeah.
And it's really funny the way my career ended is I don't remember my last at bat, and I don't remember the last guy I got a hit off because
do you remember where you were? Do you remember your last game?
Yeah, I was in Chicago
with
the White Sox because I got hurt. I hurt my back. I went to Frisco to rehab. They told me I wasn't coming back anytime soon. I had to earn my way back on the team. Someone got hurt. Next thing you know, I'm in the starting lineup the next day, like after 2 days of rehab. And then I played that one game. Then I sat on the bench for like a week. And I didn't play. And then I remember Saturday night, we played in Chicago. Sunday, the next day, they're like, hey, we're going to get you in the lineup. And I went home, studied the pitcher. I was all excited, like I'm going to play. That night, that day game on Saturday, Jock Peterson broke his hand. He got hit by a pitch. So I'm thinking, I'm going to get some more run. I'm a platoon outfielder, but they can move some guys in the DH spot. I'm going to get a chance to play, Show up to the field Sunday, all excited, eat my breakfast. I'm going through my stretching routine. I get called in the office. It's over. They released me, and I'm like, that was definitely not the ending I wanted because I don't remember like anything good that I did, like my last hit, my last pinch hit, anything like that. But it obviously sucks to hear that because you, as a player, you have pride and you want to like say, hey, I'm done when I'm done. But when they told me that, there was obviously a lot of sadness. I think my whole career kind of flashed before my eyes. When I packed up my bag, seeing the guys, there was a lot of sadness. Like, like I'm never going to get a chance to do this again. In my mind, I knew I was done.
Right.
Mentally. Physically, I still felt like I could play. If you gave me a little bit of time to like, get my back healthy and give me some run, or if I went to the right team and I had the right role, I could still play. But mentally, as soon as I left that field, I called my wife, told her what happened. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going back.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a completely different feeling.
I would agree that there's definitely like this sense of like soon as I got when I got let go, I was in Tampa, and it's like soon as they let me go, I ended up signing with the Twins, but I knew like right then it was like that's probably it. Like I finished out that season, and I even went to get to play, but like right then I was like,
and I don't think people realize, and I'm starting to realize this now because I'm freshly retired. You run into not like your immediate people, like your wife, your kids, your parents that you like interact with every day, but maybe the outside layer of like friends or like grandparents, or I talked about Dr. Meister, who I saw, and they're like, you look different, and I'm like, what do you mean? You're acting different. I'm like, I don't think you realize how much stress you're under playing the game every single day, night in and night out, preparing. Your whole world is trying to be the best version of yourself every single day. And then when finally someone tells you it's over and you're at peace with it, like the weight of the world got lifted off me. And like, it's just my life's been so much different, not having to like worry about hitting and working on my swing, because it was just a 24/7 obsession that I had. And that was the only way that I could be, I won't even say good. I was an average player. I had some good moments, but like to be the best version of myself, it took every ounce of me to do what I did. It wasn't like I could just show up and my swing was built, I had to work on it every single day. I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking about my swing, and I'd take a curling iron and I would be like, okay, does this look right? It was crazy.
Yeah, we find ourselves in the elevator on the road.
Yeah.
When no one's looking.
Yeah, in the mirror, just like.
I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah.
You've been there before.
Yeah.
Like you get on the elevator and you're hoping no one else gets on because you get that 360 mirror and you're like, yes. And you're like, I'm gonna get it right now in the elevator. And then you stop on floor 11 and you're like, act like nothing happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of, when me and Cody kind of, came up with this idea to the majors, and it's something I'd been thinking about. And then when we connected out here, we had similar journeys to getting to the major leagues. We had our struggles, and I think it was just important for us to kind of, highlight guys like yourself who had a lot of success, but also had a lot of struggles, and that there's a human side to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously the youth component of it is really important too, that you don't have to know you're going to be a baseball player at 8 years old. Enjoy being a kid, enjoy doing other things, be an athlete first, and at some point baseball is going to find you. And and when that moment is, hopefully when you're older, you give it the best opportunity you have to be successful and give it your best. I love that you talked about kind of, the numbers. You can't think about the numbers. You just got to go out and play it because you love doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you only get a short amount of time in your life to play this game because it's truly fun. At some point, it does become a job and it does become business. And there are a lot of guys that you played with, and Lindor always comes to mind, like how he's able to play it at such a high level and like a kid, and not worrying about all the other things. And obviously, it's great to hear from you because you made a ton of money, but money doesn't take away from the stresses and the anxieties and the fears and the emotions that you go through as a player. So I think it's important that you were able to kind of share that with us on, this episode of To the Majors, and can't thank you enough. You were a guy that I never got a chance to play with, but, we're part of the same fraternity as center fielders in Toronto. And I was fortunate enough to meet you a handful of times early in my career, and you were a mentor for me. And I can't thank you enough for doing this.
No, man. I'm glad you made the phone call. I'm glad you guys are doing this. This will be a good one for you guys.